Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, as chairman of the board of directors of KBC, and also on behalf of the executive committee, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you. As you know, KBC works together with BRS. It is rather obvious and evident because, as you know, BRS belongs to the CERA group, and CERA is our main shareholder. But I think that is not our main motive. Our main motive is that we are both interested in working together, and certainly in the field of microfinance, because also KBC invested in money and in people in that area. Of course, Frankie de Picker will say a little bit more about BRS. I just want to mention that the slogan of BRS is we do more than spending money or giving money. And in this case, it means that we mobilize together experience in banking, and that we call upon some of our staff members, actual ones, also I would call them some young retireds who are here today, and they together work with colleagues in the South. These colleagues are not subsidiaries, they are independent organizations, partners, and we learn from them, and we hope also from time to time to give them a little bit of our expertise. As an example, in January there was a team who left for Honduras. This week a few ICT people went to Cameroon, and in March and in April some of our KBC insurance colleagues go to Togo and Kenya. I will not tell a lot about the theme, although we are very experienced with regulation, as you can imagine, and certainly Frankie these days. But Michel Vermaken will, with his traditional skills, and he knows a lot more about it, tell you about all these matters and the role of the authorities and the problem of the responsibilities of the financial institutions. With a sort of joke, I could say that regulation is, as one of my teachers told, about discipline. When we were at school, he asked us, what is the definition of discipline? And then he waited a few seconds and said, discipline is necessary. And that is true for regulation. We have, of course, experienced with the crisis that the financial sector had a tendency to go for auto-regulation. And of course, this in some areas is possible, but the crisis showed that there are limits to auto-regulation, and that always the authorities play a certain role. The second thing is that the crisis demonstrated that regulation has to do with risk, and also microfinance has to do with risk. The third lesson we all had to learn, and it was a very painful, is that although there is already a lot of regulation, and even in this field I saw in the documentation that it is not a new subject, Mr. Ekwe. Of course, we experienced that in some areas there was none, and on the other hand, that there was too much regulation and that we went for a lot of bureaucracy. And the final thing, as you know, it is certainly a theme which is very important to us all, and certainly for me personally. It is that there are always limits to regulation, and that ethics, of course, play a final role also in the discipline and the regulation of a sector. So I will not dwell more on that. I will leave the floor to Michel Vermaken. I'm very glad that we have a very eminent speaker, Mr. Eric Ekwe. Those of you who saw in the annexes have seen his impressive curriculum, for the most part in the Central Bank of the West African States. So he is, I think, very qualified to speak on the subject. On the other hand, I think it is also very interesting to have somebody of Africa. Another lesson of the crisis is that we are all desperately looking for new markets, And although Africa has its problems like all other continents, it is sure that with the help of microfinance, but also with the help of everybody, certainly the West African and all the African states are a new area possibly for prosperity, first of all for the population concerned, but probably for the entire world. So with that broad reflection, I would like to give the floor to Michel.